Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we're taking a look here today at the graph, which is GRT. It's one of my favorites. Technically, nobody asked me to cover this, but I wanted to cover it for my community members because I feel like it is a good coin to swing trade and or hodl, right? So just something to consider there, of course, but just note if you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research and take ownership of your own trades and make sure that you learn as much as you can from everyone as possible. Obviously not those scammy, cruddy people that tell you to 10x a coin because it's going to explode tomorrow. Granted, that does happen sometimes, but you want to use sound, logical information and advice, right? So my goal here is to help you become a better trader for a lifetime, not just for one day. So if you follow along and watch all the way through to the end, I guarantee you'll learn a thing or two here and hopefully become a better trader. Right now, if you like to go more on autopilot, or perhaps you want to follow my trading style, I share all of my trades with my community members. Link in the description below there. I provide entry targets, best practice, and overall just kind of give you as much knowledge as possible in the crypto universe because I have more time in my hands and I love doing this. This is just my thing. All right, so check that out in your own time. Also reference my Telegram community too. Good group of folks there as well. We have an awesome admin. Now, at this point, I have really nothing else to say except looking at the charts, so let's just go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at the graph. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first. Now, the reason why we do that, of course, is just because we need to understand all the angles before we jump right into this coin arbitrarily, right? Perhaps you're already in it and you need to know what's going to happen next. That's fine too. But moving forward, looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum first is a really good baseline so we know exactly what's going on in the market, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at that here now. First things first, so I use TradingView.com desktop application. Recommend the paid versions just because it gives you more than 2 indicators present at a time. Link in the description below for a free month if you're interested in that. Moving forward, we're going to take a look here at the simple moving averages. First things first. So for Bitcoin, we got the simple moving average, the 50, that is working as a support level now. It was a previous resistance, but it broke through recently with this one of our last 4-hour candlesticks. The 4-hour chart also reflects the 200 is progressing upwards to about 40,000. So as it slowly moves up, we start to see the price ramp up. That should work as a support level moving forward as well, but we may not see that tested for some time. Moving on, we've got a major resistance at about 50,000. Another resistance at about 48,000. There's a strong channel here that might work as a resistance zone based on the fact that there's a lot of buying opportunity there. A lot of people have positions open still from before Bitcoin sold off April 17th, April 21st, and then also May 19th. Furthermore, we've got a resistance at about 48,000. I think I already identified that. The current support, though, is 46,500. And it bounced off that recently, and it's still holding above. Obviously, we're in pretty good shape there. So we should see this work itself into this little channel here, then hopefully break above if it bounces off of the support here again. It could come retracing back down since we have a bit of an overextension here, but my guess is we'll see a little bit more sideways action and then ramp up. We've also got a support at 44,000 and then, of course, 42,000 just below it. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at there for Bitcoin. Looking at Ethereum, very similar scenario here. Only difference is we have obviously different resistance levels and different price points, right? So the major resistance here is 32.50. The price just rejected off of that here. So we'll see what happens soon, but the great news is we're above the 50. So we got this tight little channel here between support and resistance zones. So we'll see how Ethereum breaks up or sideways. If Bitcoin can surpass 48,000 or just get closer to 48,000, then we'll probably see Ethereum break above and stay above this resistance and work as a support. Major support 2,900, secondary support 2,400, and of course 1,725. Moving on to the graph. Now this is a cool one. It's a great coin. Get it? Great GRT. It's one I've been invested in for some time, and I think it's definitely worthwhile. Check out the fundamentals. I think you'd be fairly impressed. It's a good coin, but we're not here for that. Strictly just the technicals, and if you look at the technical charts, we can see based on this trading here so far, the 200 is working as a potential resistance level. We're not there yet, but 120, $1.20 will likely be a resistance zone, as well as the fact that we have a support level of about 63 cents, or sorry, 67 for the 50. Neither of those really matter right now because we're in between, and the major thing to understand is that we have a pretty strong support level, or correction, resistance. No, actually it's a support now, sorry. So we have a strong support level here at about 95, 96 cents. And that just broke through in the last 24-hour period. So the great thing about that, it was a previous resistance zone. So in other words, we have a nice support level here close to where the price action is at. So if we do see a retracement, it'll probably come down and bounce off of that. Furthermore, also to note, before the Bitcoin sell-off on April 17th, which is this guy right here, yep, pretty easy to pick out, one of the major red downhills. April 17th is essentially the first major Bitcoin sell-off, right? So what we like to do is we like to identify the average true range of this coin before that happened. Because remember, Bitcoin was between 50 and 64,000 right in this time frame. So therefore, what, $1.34 is the low point, whereas I guess you could say the high average is 230. You could just say 234. So between 134 and 234, you kind of split the difference. It's somewhere in the range of about, $2, or maybe just say 180, 190. That's the average range for the graph before the sell-off. Okay, so what that means for us is we got a lot of room for growth here. We're only at 102, so hypothetically we could get all the way back up to about $1.80 once Bitcoin surpasses 50,000, right? And that's not far off. So I do think the graph has a lot of room for growth here. It's very undervalued, and it has a strong tendency of, or a strong propensity, of course, for doing really well here in the near future. So I think this is just a little precursor here. This one's probably going to explode here in the near future, just based on that sentiment alone. Those are usually good things to understand because it has much more potential than it's actually communicating right now, right? So it's very, very low and extremely affordable in my personal opinion. Moving on, we got RSIs up over 70, but that's pretty standard for what just happened. Not very high though, that's perfectly fine. Had a convergence on the 27th of July on the one-day chart. Won't worry about marking that just because that was a while ago, and it's not really relevant. What is relevant though is this convergence on the MACD at 5 a.m. 19th. So that's today here at 5 a.m. Let's go ahead and mark that. And if you've seen my videos before, you'll probably know where I'm heading with this, because the Ishimoku cloud on the 1 hour chart typically communicates the same thing as the 4 hour chart MACD. So I think it's important to look at those two. But if you see here, of course, we got the RSI under 70, but it is working as a support right above 50. So we're in this little channel here. Once we break above 70, that could also work as a support. So we'll see what happens there. Not a lot of people know this, but the RSI does have a lot of support and resistance zones where it stays above or below certain ranges. Again, when it's bullish, it's between 50 and 70. When it's bearish, it's in between 30 and 50. But all right, so let's go ahead and move on. First of all, one last thing to note. I'm sorry, I've almost forgot. The 50-day simple moving average is a strong support level now. It was getting tested a few times, but now it's strong support moving forward. So it'll just kind of continue to edge its way up and hopefully keep driving the price up to keep it above the support level of 95, 96 cents. All right, moving on to the 1 hour chart. So let's take a look here at the old Ishimoku cloud. Okay, so when I mentioned the MACD was giving us a buy signal on the 4 hour chart, right? When the convergence, basically the 12 intersects with the 26 in an upward fashion, that's a convergence on the MACD. That essentially will tell us when to take entry, right? As a long-term swing trader, because it's basically saying that the bears are conceding, the bulls are in control. It's switching that momentum. The same thing effectively happens with the Ishimoku cloud. When the price is above, the bulls are in control, and the price is below, the bears are in control. So for lack of better terms, it's a buy signal when the price is above, a sell signal when it's below, and it's a no buy zone when it's within. So looking at this here, yes, it gives us a no buy signal right here when the MACD was converging. However, knowing the MACD is converging is an indication of a buy signal, even if this isn't fully above the cloud, right? It's because the price action was right here while the 4 hour chart was converging. Therefore, it would be a good consideration to consider taking entry. Obviously, you can wait a couple of hours or a few hours in this case and jump in right there. But me personally, when I get a convergence on the MACD and then I get the 1 hour chart, the Ichimoku cloud, the price is in the cloud, it's still a buy signal for me. But regardless, when you get them both to happen together, as we can see here, the price broke above. Had you taken entry right as soon as the price broke above the cloud, you would have got, again, to this time right now, pretty close to about 12% gain just in the last 6 hours alone. Okay, so those are important signals. So if you were smart or wise, which I do consistently, is I just set up notifications on a lot of my favorite coins, a lot of the coins that I like to look at and work with. Essentially, the ones that have more volume and volatility, right? Not the anything under 100 for the market capitalization is ideal. And what I do is I just set notifications for my MACD, and it tells me every time the convergence is going to occur. And when it happens, I just jump in here and I confirm the 1 hour chart to see what happens. moving forward, I typically always have some type of movement to the upside. It's rare that it reverses on you unless Bitcoin sells off, which is the main reason why we look at Bitcoin support and resistance levels before we jump into this chart, right? That's the key takeaway there. Remember that. Moving on to the 15. Let's don't do that. Let's look at the TD sequential. We're probably going to have a close to state of exhaustion or reset. There we go. We're in overtime right now. So if you're new to TD sequential, this guy here basically tells us when we have exhaustion in the market. In other words, I prefer it on the 1 hour chart. Some people like it larger time frames. 4 hour works good as well. Sometimes a 1 day too. But in this example, if you can see, we see the number 1 start here, counts up, and it goes all the way to 9 and then it stops. So a 9 is essentially a reset. That's what usually drives the price down lower. Okay. But what likely happened here is the price continued up a little bit. We got a bit of a short squeeze above support, or a lot of shorts were holding their positions. They got squeezed out and the price jumped above. That's probably likely what happened. But regardless of that simple fact, anytime you see a 9, it's supposed to retrace and come back down. But this 9 ended above a support level. Therefore, it's not coming down, it's going back up, right? So that's probably exactly what happened there. Keep in mind, too, we've got 1, 2, 3 candles still counting up here, or sorry, not counting any longer, right? So it doesn't say 10, 11, 12, but it's essentially 9 plus. And until we start seeing these candles go down lower than the 4th previous, we're not going to get a reset. So we'll probably see a continuation, maybe some sideways action for a little bit longer. The bottom line here, and what I want you to remember, is when you see a 9, it's probably going to reverse on you soon. So in this case, it didn't reverse, but what we should expect is for the price to go sideways and to not continue upwards much longer, because it's lost momentum and it's lost that drive, so to speak. And commonly, yep, you see it there on the 1 hour, the RSI is up over 70. Again, not a bad thing. It just means that you might consider trimming your position or adding to your position once it lowers down under 70. All right, now we move on to the 15. And what we do here is we only really truly utilize the EMA and VWAP. And I'll just kind of quickly summarize this here. In other words, EMA is the exponential moving average. I use the 15. When it's above, it's considered bullish sentiment, right? The bulls are in control. So in this run here, you can see the bulls in control. The price kept testing and rejecting. Lost EMA, lost VWAP, came below, got a reset, and came back up and tried again. So EMA is something that's important to note that kind of works as a continuous momentous indicator. They're the same indicators that you find in the MACD, right? The 12 and the 26 intersecting in upward fashion, that's a convergence on the MACD. Same thing happens with the EMA as well. Only this is layered with the price action, so it's kind of nice so you can really see, hey, okay, are we the bulls in control or the bears in control? Price drop below, bounced off VWAP, we're good to go. So the VWAP, by the way, is a volume weighted average price. That's this blue line here. What that does, it takes the volume the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price, and generally just tells us that it's considered a support or resistance level. Okay. So as you can see here, for the most part in this little run, either the EMA or VWAP line is pretty much holding it, right? So it holds right here, holds right there, basically giving us confirmation. So the very last thing you want to consider understanding, and this is something that I utilize in my trading, basically my signal group that I have with my community, my Crypto Cash Premium account. There's a link in the description below. Check that out in your own time, of course, but I share all of my trades with my community members. So everything you're learning here today, I share there, and this is one of them here. So in other words, when the price is above EMA, check mark number 1. Price above VWAP, check mark number 2, right? So we've got 2 firm confirmations knowing the price is moving upwards in the direction of the bulls. Furthermore, what we do is you want to look for 2 solid green bars above EMA and VWAP, and that's the third, basically the icing on the cake that really drives it home. What I'm getting at here is that if you try to just take entry arbitrarily, just say you're chasing the bottom, unless the price is over EMA and VWAP, you don't know if the bears or bulls are in control yet, right? You're just kind of chasing the bottom. You're hoping for the best. You're gambling. Not ideal. In this case here, you're using educated, guessing, for lack of better terms, or more so just confirmation knowing the bulls have controlled the market for the last 30 minutes. So you look for 2 15-minute candlesticks closing above EMA and VWAP together in a row, and that basically gives us confirmation. So this is what I look for. I commonly take entry at points like this. And had I taken entry and just exited right now, I'd be about 12.5%. Okay, now then that's not a very long time frame. This is about maybe 4 to 6 hours. So that's a decent growth in that amount of time. That's what we kind of try to look for at all points. And again, this wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a convergence on the MACD, right, in the first place on the 4-hour chart, or the price didn't break above the Ishimoku cloud on the 1-hour chart, or we're above this support level that we identified on the 1-day chart. So a lot of things kind of all factor in together, but again, none of this matters if Bitcoin is selling off, right? because for the most part, these things will decline if Bitcoin declines as well, which is why you look at Bitcoin first to quickly identify if it's above or below support levels, if it has room for growth and we're in good shape. Then in turn, you're going to see this one continue to grow as well, because we've already identified that it is fairly reliant on Bitcoin, and when Bitcoin sells off, the graph does too. But the end all here, the kind of thing I want to leave you here with, of course, is the fact that we're above support. Fantastic. We're below the average true range for the graph right now, because 50 to 64,000 was what it was doing right here, and we're well below that. So how much more room for growth do we have for the graph in the next few weeks? Quite a lot. It should at least double in the next couple of months if, of course, only if Bitcoin surpasses 50,000, starts trending towards 60. Okay. So hopefully you found benefit here. If you do, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you're currently holding a position with the graph. I know I am, and I think it's very advantageous to consider. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Take care.